Welcome to Pine Pirate Radio. My name is Fort.
My name's Cash.
I'm Seth.
We're into 36 now.
Yeah, we are.
36. And breaking news, we have to cover the most important news story that has ripped through the Twitter sphere.
If we do not have solidarity on this issue, then that's it. I don't know what else to say. This is the issue. This is the time. It is happening now. We better walk into this together. And I don't care if you're double jabbed, if you're wearing the mask, whatever. Take whatever responsibility you want for your health and do whatever you want with your body that you think is medically necessary.
Do not come. Do not come.
Shame on you, Trump. Seriously, maybe you're not that bright. Maybe Trump's actually a dumbass.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covet means for expanding its sphere of influence.
War is a racket.
Nobody has ever complied their way out of totalitarianism.
Whole segments of the society then, because they're not needed for labor within that profit model, become expendable. And so the end point of capital accumulation under an industrial model, if it's not ended, only has one path, and that path is genocide.
It
Ace?
Pirate Radio.
Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests. I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
Donald Trump has released NFT playing
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, he made this very large announcement. Some would say the best announcement, the biggest announcement ever.
I would say the best announcement.
he would too. In fact, I'm sure he did.
I mean, others have made good announcements. Some announcements are great,
If
but
you
this
take
one is the best.
Emancipation Proclamation just doesn't even compare to this.
Fuck off Kennedy, fuck off Lincoln.
Yeah.
This is the best speech that's ever been given
This
in
is
American politics.
This is the NFT Proclamation. This is the Donald Kent. What do we want to call it? Trump Clark Trump. I don't know. I'm trying to make a Superman reference.
Okay.
Yeah. He's ripping open his shirt to reveal a giant T.
Clark Trump.
Yeah.
Trump.
That being said, I guess they sold out like immediately.
Of course they did.
Yep.
Of course they did, because there's just fucking idiots out there.
So,
I would say at least half of it is ironic.
I really
Yeah,
at least half.
it's like the most boomer thing you could have done too, because it's like NFTs are like so last year,
and people have already figured out they're a scam. Like people already
Yeah.
know. I really hope that the reason they sold out is because he bought them all.
Honestly, that he's not beyond that.
I really
like
hope.
through cutouts and shit. He's not beyond that.
escalating the price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
artificially inflate the value by buying all of your own NFTs.
Oh my God.
I mean, so obviously this isn't the most important important news that's happened this week, but it's just, I think it's so symbolic of like where we are politically nowadays. Like it's hilarious from like a standpoint of like laugh while it burns kind of thing. Like just laugh while it burns to the ground, you know?
Yeah, laugh the pain away.
Yeah, it's painful.
Well,
for sure.
You mentioned the Twitter sphere, and I think it's probably more like a Twitter horseshoe. Because the other big announcement on Twitter this week was more Twitter file releases.
Yeah.
And so like there's a lot of Twitter shit this week. So like the Twitter file announcements, also Elon Musk banning reporters, the free speech absolutist, who clearly doesn't know what the word absolute or free speech means.
He he released a tweet, or tweeted a tweet, I should say, and pretty much immediately deleted it. But he said something. He was arguing with someone on Twitter, and someone was basically coming at him for like, yeah, I thought you were this free speech absolutist, blah blah blah. How can you like say or justify the moves that you've been doing? You know, you're just being like basically a petty dictator, right? And he said something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the gist of the tweet was, you know, in third world countries, people who criticize their leadership are disappeared or outright killed. In my case, I just banned them from the platform that I own. I think this is a much more agreeable solution.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like, it's an implicit threat.
Well, it's also
Like,
it's also
he's
this
definitely saying, like, you know, I could be doing this.
it's this very weird straw man. Obviously not. So here's why I think this is hilarious, because so the reason he started banning these accounts supposedly was because they were retweeting this account, which I thought was hilarious. I still think it's hilarious that someone wrote a bot that would publish the publicly available FAA information based off where his private airplane is.
Oh yeah.
Because in order to fly a plane, you have to submit a flight plan, and that information becomes
publicly
public.
available. Yep.
Yeah, so anyone, if you know the tail number, you can track anyone's plane anywhere.
Yeah.
They were doing that with the Epstein plane. They were doing that with Sam Bankman-Fried's plane, trying to figure out where he was going.
They did it to comedian Ron White, who like has like no relevance to politics whatsoever. But like,
there's an app called Flight Radar where you could just see all active flights over actually Europe and the U.S. that are all registering to the same FAA.
Yeah, because there's some law that says that information has to be publicly available. Now, they don't have to necessarily make apps, but someone obviously did. Now, like so what's hilarious is that on November 6th, Donald Trump, oh my God, Elon Musk made this tweet, which I don't know if he's deleted it yet. I really hope he hasn't, because that would just be the icing on the cake, where he specifically mentions, you know, reaffirming his own beliefs in free speech. He goes, I leave this account up, and it's a personal safety risk to me and my family, but I leave it up because that's my commitment to free speech. Well, then apparently someone, intelligence agency maybe, who was trying to call his bluff, someone apparently tracked a car from the airport, which wasn't him. It was one of his kids. I can't remember. And apparently somehow forced the vehicle to stop. I have two issues with this. One, I definitely think it was a black flag in order to push a narrative. I really hope it was one of the security companies that then followed up with a phone call to say like, "Hey, we provide security services. Might you be interested?" But the other thing is like, he's one of, if not the wealthiest human beings on the planet, and he doesn't have private security for everyone he fucking knows.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And then he's obviously so concerned about this that he then used that to turn his morals upside down and say, nope, we have to get rid of this because it's a personal safety risk.
There's
very convenient.
Very convenient.
There's a Twitter handle called Poorly Aged Tweets, and lately they've been posting just bangers of last week of all of his tweets about his commitment to keeping the platform the way it was.
Right.
Oh my God.
I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be like what he said it was going to be.
Yeah.
I was just hoping it would be like marginally better. I thought that was basically the best we could hope for.
The horseshoe comes back around. It doesn't, left or right, it doesn't matter. The whims of hyper wealthy individuals will be what they act upon.
Right.
And
exactly.
It's just a reminder that he didn't offer to buy. I think he kind of got Chinese finger trapped with the Twitter purchase, right? I think he threw it out there because he wanted to pump and dump Twitter. And then he kind of then the government said, oh, no, like, you're doing this now. Because obviously the government and Twitter were fucking besties.
Yeah.
So they probably said, no, we got your back. We'll make him buy it out. Because we have all of our controls at the mid tier anyways. Like, well, not all of it. I'm sure there's a good amount of people in the upper boards of Twitter that, you know, run it on behalf of the government. So they're like, yeah, we're going to make him fucking buy it. And then we'll also tear him down because we'll start making him say dumb shit that he'll just change next week.
Right.
So like, we're gonna force him to double down. I mean, this is like the old one reason I hate the internet, but it's like the old police tactic of like, just ask a million questions, because if they answer them, they're committing to something.
Right. Yeah.
And then if any of it is wrong later on, they're on the record as having said this thing. And if they ever change their mind, that's what breaks credibility for a jury. It also breaks credibility for the public. But so in this case, I wouldn't be shocked if a government affiliated organization or individual said, "Oh, you know what we're gonna do?
Yeah.
We're gonna make Elon start banning people off Twitter," which is something he said he would never do, and that'll just get Elon off the fucking he's not gonna be a public problem anymore.
So, I don't know. I'm of two minds to this. Like, part of me thinks, like, so I'm not, like, a huge fan of this, like, overt narrative, like, Elon Musk, free speech warrior. I think we're all kind of skeptical of that. And, you know, we've gone pretty much waxed eloquently about how, like, how tied he is in with the deep state and various facets of the U.S. intelligence community.
And how he made his money.
And how he made his money and stuff like that. But I think that, like, I think you're seeing, like, factionalism in the oligarchy. Like, you're seeing, you know, people that kind of don't really like him, and there are people that do. I think a lot of this is personal. And, you know, and basically everyone else is just kind of either forced to be a spectator or a pawn, right? Because we don't have we don't have the money or the means to, like, actively participate in this conversation. However, I kind of suspect a lot of this might be, like, melodrama. This might be literal theater. Like, I think there's an effort to kind of prop Elon Musk up as, like, the leader of, like, alternative thought or whatever. But he's still, it's basically what happened with Trump. Is this person who is very much of the oligarchy, and here's your bad boy outsider oligarch.
Yeah.
And he's the cool oligarch.
Yeah.
He still pretty much funnels you back in to the system, to accepting, you know, he still takes all that government money, for instance. He's still pushing Neuralink. He's still doing these things that very much will benefit the elite.
Still launching satellites on behalf of the government. They just launched another one that's going to do some oceanography monitoring, supposedly.
Sure.
Probably find out where more underwater pipelines are buried.
To protect them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, to know where they might be strongest and also weakest.
Nowhere to shoot the interception missiles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, like and one thing that sums it up, or one quick succinct way to sum up at least my views on it, don't wait for the right billionaire to come save you. Like, there is no right billionaire, and they're not going to save you.
Definitionally, they are against your interests. Just by them existing, they have to protect what they have.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, they know. Like, the pitchforks and the guillotines are coming out.
They've been systematically protecting what they have. That's how they accumulated so much.
Exactly. I mean, what do they say? Behind every great fortune is a great crime, right?
Well,
and it's just a matter of finding it, honestly.
And that's why I think that the Elon, whoever did this intimidation tactic on his family, maybe it was just a very eccentric and crazy civilian, or it was someone calling a bluff and sending a message. I am very surprised, to your point, though, because he obviously didn't feel that he needed it prior to this event.
Right, which is so bizarre to me.
Well, it's what makes me think he's had protection all along,
right,
in different ways, because the Elon Jet account is not new. I can't remember when it was made, but it is not new. So the likelihood that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, now someone has decided to do this, like, it certainly is possible, maybe, but, like, what's changed in the last 2 years from an Elon Musk perspective, other than he's just a little more public than he used to be?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was watching an interview. There's a guy on YouTube. His name's Daniel List, but he goes by the moniker Dark Journalist.
Ooh.
And he's
the edge.
Yeah. He's something. Sharp. He definitely has, like, serious edgelord vibes.
Yeah.
Like, it's sometimes, like, his takes are, like, super cringy, but, like, he has, like, some actually pretty good information about a variety of things, and he looks at things in a way that, like, I wouldn't ever think to look at. That's not to say that I credit I mean, he, like, literally uses psychics as sources and shit. Like, what the fuck? But, like, there are some other things, like, he, like, digs up some kind of interesting stuff. So he was interviewing Whitney Webb the other day, and Whitney Webb's on, like, because she just released her 2-volume book, One Nation Under Blackmail, and so she's on, like, a press, she is on a press tour, basically. Yeah. Like, you know, she's on, like, basically every alternative fucking podcast there is. And so she's on there, and they actually had, like, this kind of very interesting conversation because, like I said, Daniel List is kind of like this odd guy. He kind of looks at things from, like, a kind of a skewed. He's definitely, like, more on, like, the UFO tip, but he definitely believes, like, they're really aliens instead of, like, well, it's definitely more nuanced. He definitely believes that there are aliens, but he definitely thinks that there's like government fuckery and stuff. He's kind of a smart guy. He's just weird. But anyways, so he was interviewing her, and they brought up this thing. She was talking about how I guess James Corbett made a video, which I have yet to watch, but they were talking about like Elon, he was like, it was like a takedown of Elon Musk, basically like basically saying what we're saying, as far as I can tell. Don't trust the billionaires. Like, what are you doing? But I guess like part of some of the information that he revealed in that was that the character of Iron Man in like the first Marvel movies, like
Tony Stark,
the Robert Downey Jr. portrayal of Tony Stark, was very much based on Elon Musk.
What?
Yeah, so
I swear to God.
That wasn't. It's funny you say that because I do remember that as a light narrative. But back in 2009 or whenever that first movie came out,
it was like 2006 or something.
Yeah, I knew it was before 2010. I couldn't remember exactly when.
And that's interesting because like if that's true, then they very much were conscientiously propping this guy up, like as like this is what he's gonna be. He's gonna be this science pioneer, and he's going to be this radical bad boy,
like Iron Man can.
Oh no, but I think.
But the metaphor. So I do remember that, but people didn't know as much about who Elon Musk was because it wasn't until sometime until I want to say in the 2010s where Tesla started actually making headway, and so it was. Elon Musk has always been wealthy. It's not like he is an upstart from out of nowhere, right? Like he came from money and he continued to leverage that money to make more money. But I do remember that being a narrative or a metaphor. And yeah, I think to your point, they were trying to start to build the public gratitude towards Elon, because as we know, the government plays all sides. So he was one of dozens of people they were probably trying to build up as these saviors.
It's just really interesting that they would that they clearly had chosen him as like one of the vectors for that. And I don't know. I don't know what the source is on that, but I do know that that's what's being claimed, and it's just interesting to me. Like
the Elon Musk thing, I was thinking about it on the way over. Just it is a very good example of the nuance that our media cannot handle right now. It's the answer to what happens when the unstoppable force meets the immovable object, and that is chaos. Like clearly. So Elon Musk has said two things that are completely said one thing, that he's a free speech absolutionist, and his actions have completely gone against that, and they're irreconcilable. They're mutually exclusive. You can't be a free speech absolutionist and also ban people you don't like. You can't. Those things are not two things that can occur at the same time.
Yeah.
So one of them is wrong, and as we I think most people tend to believe actions speak louder than words. So most people are saying, yeah, Elon Musk is not a free speech absolutionist, even though he claims to be, and so our media does not handle that well. Because there's still so much conservative in particular, but so much like platitudes that they're like the right. I was listening to it's dated and it only came out today. Russell Brand was interviewing Matt Taibbi regarding the Twitter files, and Russell Brand was talking about how Elon Musk, he really thought he was bringing a nice innovative twist to trying to bring back the Twitter brand. And I was like, and he was talking about the integrity that Elon has, and I was like, when was this recorded?
Yeah,
right.
I can't imagine it was that long ago. Poorly aged from 2 days ago. He released the video on YouTube. It was today, or maybe it was yesterday, but I thought it was today. And I was like, man, like it is just dick slobbering all over. Like if they just latch onto it because it's the only way they can get.
Well, I think like especially a lot of people in the alternative media, they're so starved for like anyone in upper circles to kind of like mirror their beliefs, that as soon as someone does, like you saw with Donald Trump, you're seeing it with Elon Musk, you're seeing it to a certain extent with like DeSantis and other people, like they just hop right on that train and they're gonna ride it hard until they can't ride it anymore, until basically the mountain of evidence is just so overwhelming that eventually even they're like, like we can't. Yeah, maybe this person is more sus than we thought. Maybe this person is, whatever.
It's ridiculous, is what it is.
But you're seeing like, and to your point, like I was browsing through articles that I might want to bring up on the podcast earlier today, and I happened upon like a right-leaning site, which was Rebel News, which is a Canadian outlet, which does it's pretty sensationalist stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and like one of the things that like I would say, like, I swear to God, like at least a quarter of their coverage is just like people are criticizing Elon Musk. They're just like running like defense for him, and it's like, why? What? Because he said 3 things you liked? Like I don't understand like why like there's like this such devotion to this man. Like,
agree. It's all the idols. Like, what's funny, and it's funny, it just happens to be whichever one gets the most traction, regardless of the site. Like, Biden has lost, in my opinion, like pretty much all credibility in the media, and so the media doesn't even like they treat him, they keep him like away.
They don't even talk about him.
They're like, we don't want him unless we have to. Like, we want to keep him at arm's reach at all times, unless he does something really stupid or really quote unquote good, right? Like they don't. Whereas with Trump, it was every day. It was either a very good thing or a very bad thing. And even if it wasn't, they would spin it that way.
Right.
And so they're doing the same thing with Elon now. Like MSNBC will talk about what Elon had for breakfast. If it's like, he didn't have free range eggs, he must hate black people. Like that type. Like they do that stupid shit all the time.
Yeah.
Like they don't have any correlation, but they just want to throw it out there.
I guess they have nothing to talk about.
Well, yeah. Well, there's plenty to talk about, but they want us to, focus on these unimportant things. And I think like a lot of the Twitter files thing is a lot of that.
Yeah, they don't
it's
want
a
to
lot
talk
of
about
stuff we already knew.
Yeah, but that being said, it's a much bigger story than anything MSNBC has talked about in the last 2 weeks.
I mean, fair enough.
Other than maybe the Russia, maybe the Russia-Ukraine tensions heating up a little bit again, but other than that,
on this very podcast, we've talked about before the Twitter files. Government collusion with Twitter. We've talked. This is not like new stuff.
Yeah.
Like maybe like you can nail down the absolute specifics. Like they met 2 times a week or whatever. But broadly, everyone knew this was already happening. This isn't like a bombshell thing.
No, and CNN, it's so funny. Like the CNNs don't want to. Like I said, they don't really want to touch the story. But I've talked to people who exclusively pay attention to the mainstream media. Like, they don't look for anything alternative, and they know about it. So it's like it's getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's probably mostly word of mouth at this point. Probably Facebook and Twitter. So like I do think that even though I think we're seeing genuinely the mainstream media, it really isn't the place where people get real news anymore. It's just a place where you kind of passively intake some information, but people are getting a lot more alternative information than they ever have been before.
Right. And so like, I mean, kind of continuing on with this like built up savior kind of thing. I sent in the Discord, our group Discord, I sent a video or a link to a video of Tucker Carlson, I still don't know how to feel about this report, because like I know that everything he said is correct. But at the same time, it's like, what is happening?
Why now?
So Tucker Carlson, the other night, 2 days ago now, had on this is the most watched cable news program in the United States. He did a segment on the JFK assassination, basically. And the reason for this is because there's like a lot of hubbub around the National Archives releasing the remaining JFK files, and they're refusing to do so.
Yes.
Particularly like the smoking gun evidence,
the incriminating stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've already got leaks, like, so Jefferson Morley, who is a very, very renowned JFK researcher, he was a former Washington Post reporter and has now pretty much just devoted his life to JFK research. And he has found, or he has claimed to have independently corroborated that within the files that they're refusing to release is basically evidence, or the smoking gun evidence, that Lee Harvey Oswald was directly employed by the Central Intelligence Agency, which is vindicating for a lot of assassination researchers, because that's what they've been saying for fucking forever. And they had built up a pretty decent case. I mean, the only thing they didn't have was the fucking document that said Lee Harvey Oswald, you know, like they didn't have his W-2s from the agency, basically, right? Like, and so, like, apparently that kind of evidence is located in the files that they have, like, refused to release, at least according to Jefferson Morley. And so Tucker was covering this, and he did like a wide-ranging overview of the JFK assassination. And in particular, he focused on Louis Jolyon West, who is a notorious figure in like the alternative research community. Like so he touches on a lot of things. He touches on the JFK assassination. He touches on MK Ultra and mind control. He touches on Timothy McVeigh. He touches on Charles Manson. He touches on there's pretty much not a major parapolitical event in the last 50 years that this man has not been directly implicated in some way. He's like this weird shadowy figure that is just always on like the periphery of these things.
He's on every receipt somewhere.
And Tucker Carlson on Fox News just talked about basically how, you know, he had this weird relationship with Jack Ruby, and Jack Ruby wasn't considered crazy before Jolyon West met with him, and then he was, and God, isn't that weird?
And for the record, Jolyon West is the psychiatrist.
Yes, he's a CIA psychiatrist, yes, and mind control expert. And I believe he was based out of the UC Santa Barbara for like forever, and I mean, like, we could do like an entire episode on this man, but like, needless to say, he was deeply involved in mind control research for the federal government, various programs, not just MK Ultra, but like other things as well. And this has been heavily documented. It sounds fucking wild, but like, you can't. It's basically to the point of indisputability at this. Like, you can't even. This is all with government records and firsthand like interviews and stuff. Like, this is historical at this point. And we know that he met with Jack Ruby, and Tucker Carlson covered this, which
it's bringing names into the mainstream media.
Up until almost this exact moment in media, if they even mentioned the name Louis Jolyon West, it was in a scornful, like, how dare you, like, mind control? What are you talking about?
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I mean, and here you have it on Fox News, Tucker Carlson, you know, basically saying there's something to this. Not only was he saying that, he outright said that he had a source in the National Archives that, and he asked them, you know, I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he's like, to the extent of like, we asked him what was up with the documents, and the guy's like, the CIA did it.
Yeah.
And so, like, on Tucker Carlson Tonight or whatever, he basically announced that the CIA committed the JFK assassination, which is pretty fucking wild, I have to say. Like,
yeah, it's very damning that it's getting into, like I said, mainstream media now, and that's what there's definitely something interesting, because and you want to talk about a unifying issue, which you never would have thought was unifying before, but I've heard a lot more what would be considered Democratic or liberal coverage of the lack of release of information on the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, this is one of those topics that neither side has decided to latch onto yet, and they both still think it's bad, so they're both trying to like rally those folks to their side.
So like, I knew like, I saw someone I follow on Twitter was tagged in it, and I was like, oh, why is this particular person tagged in a fucking Tucker Carlson video? Because the crowds that I tend to follow on Twitter are not like the type that would like tag each other in Tucker videos, honestly. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. And so I click on it, and he's like, oh, good day, welcome to Tucker Carlson, blah blah blah, the JFK assassination. And he's talking about and he directly references a scholar named Lance DeHaven Smith. Lance DeHaven Smith is probably widely regarded, certainly in alternative circles, as probably like one of the foremost experts on like the history of conspiracism in America. He was a scholar from I think it was like University of Florida. He just recently passed away. And he had he was a public administration professor. So like basically a government professor. And but his whole tip was about like how conspiracy in government works, like actually works, like from like in the bureaucratic sense. Interesting guy. Did some wonderful stuff. Just recently passed away. Very little mainstream acclaim. You know, he was a tenured professor. He was allowed to do, but he was just very much marginalized, almost his entire career. And then he passes away. And then like 2 weeks later, Tucker Carlson's name dropping him on fucking on fucking Fox News. I just like there's no justice. You know, not that I think he probably would have liked the spotlight very much. It's just funny how that works.
Especially with Tucker Carlson. You know, believe that there's basically zero opportunity for coincidence there. So some memo has gone out to start talking about this everywhere.
Right. And you know, and Tucker Carlson, this is hilarious too. And so we've said this before. Tucker Carlson's father is Dick Carlson. Dick Carlson ran like the U.S. Information Agency for the CIA, which was basically the propaganda arm of the CIA. And so Tucker Carlson's reporting, well, you know, in 1964, the CIA invented the term conspiracy theorist. This is literally the line that his own father was pushing. And there's like zero sense of irony in this. And he's just like, he has like no connection to this at all. Like he's just like
the apple falls far from the tree and keeps rolling and then comes back around.
Right. It's just amazing to me. So there is definitely like an agreement. That this is going to be pushed.
Well, and
I can't figure out why though.
So I think so this is why you were talking about sort of like factioning or infighting a little bit. So because every president since is it Nixon? So there was a law that was enacted, and I can't remember what year it was enacted, but basically it said like every year by like there was a date, and I want to say 2017 was the date.
Yeah, you're right.
That all of this information had to have been released by that date.
The National Assassination Records Review Act.
Yeah.
And that was passed directly because of the movie JFK, Oliver Stone's JFK, and like the renewed public interest in the case after that.
And so I guess there basically have been, you know, a lot of
it was supposed to be by 2017. Yeah. All of the records were to be released.
And so people are commenting, you know, that 2016 it didn't happen, or 2017 didn't happen, 18 didn't happen, 19 didn't happen, 20 didn't happen, 21. So like I think that this is Biden seeing an opportunity to try and earn brownie points, to be like, I don't want to look like a hypocrite, because there was enough traction to say like, hey, the deadline's coming up, right? Like, because I think it's December 2017, but I want to say it was sometime in December, like December 15th or whatever. It was gonna start turning into essentially a criminal violation, but the president doesn't give a fuck about those, so it doesn't matter anyways.
And I think they can renew it for like national security concerns.
And so I think
they can keep postponing.
Well, and I think that's what he basically did. He's like, I'll release more, try and get some brownie points, but not going to release anything actually salacious. And so I think that's why I think it's like a Biden tactic to try and leverage it. And I'm sure the White House is going out there like, talk about this, talk about how great Biden is for releasing more information. He's a hero of truth, and he's, you know, dedicated to, freedom of information and all that, blah, blah, blah. And so the left wants to push it as a, look at how great he is, and the right wants to push it as like, yeah, but look at how much he didn't release.
Right.
Look
Namely,
at how bad
all of the important stuff.
Yeah. Well, and so that's why I think that it's become a unifying issue, but they haven't figured out that the market of the public doesn't care what side it is. The government's the government, and if the government covered it up, the government's bad.
Yeah.
So I don't think they've actually realized the amount of damage that actually talking about it could have been. They could have just let this go and been like, yeah, no, those crazy people are talking about crazy stuff. But I think Biden went, no, I want to use this as an opportunity to get some points. So talk about it as good, you know.
I frankly don't understand what's happening, because like the CIA as an institution has basically become a liberal institution, right? It's very much now. I mean, it never was. It was very much. It was very. It's so weird to think about, but like it's now very, very closely tied with the Democratic Party and Democratic policies, and I think that's basically because the neocons jumped ship from the Republicans to the Democrats.
And the Pentagon's very much gone that way too. So.
And so, like, I can't see how it would benefit them to basically detonate the CIA. Like, the CIA is
it's
I mean,
so
I don't want
60s.
I don't want to oversell it, but they're perhaps, if not the most powerful organization in the world, they're one of them. And like, I just don't understand like what they would benefit from. Think of it like all of that like history and like progression to this point, and they're just gonna be like, fuck it, just let it burn.
We have to
like,
destabilize our own country.
I mean, I know, like, even if it did, like, even if they did, like, dice up the agency or whatever, it would just pretty much just, they would cut it up and then it would just be reborn in, like, 1,000 new different forms, right? You can never really get rid of it. But, like, I mean, unless you're, like, going, like, full Stalin or something.
It's
and
the
like,
Hydra.
Like, I mean, if you're not doing, like, liquidation,
Which is
I don't
ironic.
think you're ever going to, like, get rid of that. Like,
The Hydra's ironic.
not calling
too,
for that, by the way. I'm just saying, like, I don't see how that could happen.
We were talking about Marvel and Iron Man a second ago, but you know, like the background Nazi force that went into the future from from Captain America to the Age of Iron Man was Hydra.
Oh yeah,
which represents the Hydralisk with the heads and such.
Yeah.
You cannot kill it. It just it's always in a certain form. It becomes more overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it could be hey, we have to push the CIA off the cliff because it's getting too much traction. People are paying too much attention to it. So everyone's going to move to a new agency that no one remembers the acronym for, and we're going to publicly start executing the CIA.
I just think the brand's too valuable. It's like the FBI at this point. They're just not going to be like think about like how like ingrained in the American consciousness like FBI and CIA are.
Well, that's why I think that's why they don't like it.
Maybe
the Middle Intelligent Association.
Well,
the MIA because it's missing in action.
It'd be like it'd be some bureaucratic nonsense, some bureaucratic thing. Not related, but it just what made me think of it. A senator from New Jersey tried to introduce a bill to protect to make hairstyles a discriminatory thing, or protected from discrimination, and he called it it's called the Crown Act, but the fucking gymnastics to spell the word crown was it was something about
to anachronize it.
Yeah, something in natural hairstyles, and I was like, yeah, but natural hairstyles is NH. So how do you get crown? Is it crown with an H on the end? Crown,
like Crohn's disease.
I was like,
has an H in there.
Yeah, and I was like, and that's all. It'll be some kind of bullshit acronym like that, and that'll be the new CIA. But like, I don't know. I mean, it could be. It could also just be like maybe we've hit the point of where a singularity where it's just fucking it's pulling itself in and it's collapsing on itself.
I mean, it could be like I think like so. I was watching another dark journalist interview with Joseph P. Farrell, who's another kind of crankish kind of researcher who I still kind of enjoy listening to. Has some interesting stuff on like the Nazi like underground and stuff like that. Like kind of it's interesting to look at researchers like that because they'll look at things that other people might not be willing to look at, and they tend to find things that are other people might not necessarily find. But anyways, so he was interviewing Joseph P. Farrell, who is also intelligent, just a little wooey, you know. But and they were talking about like and I think Daniel List was talking, and he was basically saying something to the effect of like, well, if we release this, the CIA will implode. Will it? Do you think it will? I don't think it will.
That sounds like too good of a promise.
I think if you're already thinking about like how it controls basically, if it, or it and like associated whatever the U.S. intelligence complex, whether it's the CIA or whatever, I think it's super complicated how it actually exerts force and exerts power.
It's all very subtle, but the effects are huge.
Right, and I think like okay, like. So if you admit that it pretty much controls the internet, it controls all media, they control the publishing houses, they control the universities, they control healthcare, pharmaceuticals, they have like, all right, so let's just say they do all that, or if not control, have an outsized influence in those institutions, then how is this any threat to them?
Well, and that's what I mean. Maybe they're crumbling under their own weight, and there is no line that you can cross in the American eyes that will actually cause any action against them. So maybe there's like, go ahead,
just
talk.
let it.
Go ahead, talk. We're still not going to give you everything, but like go ahead, talk about it all you want.
I mean, maybe it kind of benefits them in a way. Like if you openly talk about how they like took out a fucking American president, now they're just like owning up to it. They're like, yeah, we did.
Well, and they're
like, and what are you gonna do about it?
Well, yeah, they're gonna do what they did, just like with the Twitter files thing, just a little different. They're like, yeah, well, that wasn't us, like that was some other dude back then, and what are we gonna do about it now, right?
Right. Oh, we would never do that now.
I think we should give the Kennedy family reparations.
They need more money.
Did you see? Don't think we need to dive into it, but the California State Senate's hearing a bill to give every black Californian $350,000 in reparations.
No,
I don't know how.
I don't know how the state
of,
the money.
I don't know how the state of California is going to fund that.
California, with its extensive legacy of slavery,
yeah. So
it came into the Union as a free state.
So
I think there might have been some Spanish slavery, like when the Spanish owned it.
My guess is this is just a way to get a headline that sounds like look Governor Newsom is doing something progressive.
Why doesn't he just renounce his position and give it to a black man?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that
he just turned himself black.
California certainly doesn't have an uncheckered past in terms of its racial politics.
Yeah.
But I don't understand the rush of especially with states that don't have a significant legacy of slavery. Well, I get it. One slave's too much. It should never have existed.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I understand. It's definitely more about grandstanding.
Oh yeah.
Than
absolutely.
it is about because the states that really, if you're really seriously talking about reparations, the states that should be doing that would be Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, places like that, like places in the deep South that had the worst forms of chattel slavery that were basically just human meat grinders.
Yeah.
A human rights abomination. The whole institution's an abomination, but that in particular.
But the irony to me is that the only way that you could fund a reparations operation, right, would be through the federal government, which takes taxes from every American, not only former slave-owning families or anything like that.
Well, yeah, on the federal level, but I think this is a state.
But even by the state, they're not going to go find only the families that in the previous 200 years owned slaves. They're going to just take from the tax bucket.
Yeah, exactly,
including black Americans. They're going to say, here, we're going to take some of your money to pay you back.
Yeah,
right, and another. Part of I remember reading something about this probably a couple months ago, and I don't know if this has been changed because I haven't been following the story closely, but I know there was some controversy because they wanted to just give it to all black Americans, people who just had black skin, regardless of their historical status. Yeah. So literally you could...
I'm an American citizen one day.
Money! Right. So you could have literally just stepped off an airplane, not really because
you'd have to be a citizen.
You have to be a citizen, but you could have just became a citizen within the last 7 years or something, and you're from Liberia or Nigeria or something.
The Caribbean.
And or the Caribbean. Or literally anywhere.
Brazil.
And why? Or a black guy from Italy or something.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. What?
I'm a black Siberian. I'd like my check, please. So
it is a little nonsensical.
It's all the way to make headlines.
It's basically we want to give black people money to make ourselves feel better.
It's white guilt. Yeah, it's literally white guilt.
Well, it's also
give them money.
It's a hyper-capitalistic way to try and make a problem go away, right? It's literally hey, how much money is it going to take to make you guys shut up?
Yeah, it's basically bribery, and part of it and so I don't, and I'm sure you kind of probably see this argument I'm sure there are black people who are saying this. I don't know for sure, but I could definitely see this argument being made is that you accept this money, it's almost like saying everything else that happens afterwards is you've bought into it. You've accepted, the police brutality. You've accepted this. You've taken this check. You're essentially saying, and I also get the argument, like, if I was a black person living in California, I'd be like, send me the fucking check. Let's do it.
Yeah,
like
and regardless of race, right? If someone introduced a bill to give every American $350,000, who the fuck is going to say no other than every politician?
I'd be like, send me that fucking check. Let's do it.
350,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought I misheard you before.
No,
I thought it was going to be like 30,000.
No, as in more than $350,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I don't know. I don't know what the census says about how many there are in California, but my guess is more than they have the money to pay that to.
And like California is like known for like not necessarily, I don't know, having like the best budgetary situation, and then they're like, let's just give every black person in our state like $350,000. I'm just saying that there has to be like better ways that like. I mean, and I'm not saying, like, you shouldn't, like, try to benefit the African-American community in California, right? Like,
sure.
It's a historically, like...
Homeless?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily homeless, but it's definitely a historically,
No, I'm saying the state, not just black people.
Yeah,
it's a notoriously homeless state.
For sure. But it's, like, a historically, like, castigated group that, like, it's a real thing, like, you know? But, like, at the same time, it's, like...
I think,
like, are you helping anyone if you send your entire state budget into like a fucking like a black hole of nothingness?
Well, and how much you want to bet it's going to be one of those scenarios where it's like, yep, you know, assuming this goes through. I don't think it will.
It's going to be like a student debt loan thing. They're just going to do it to get brownie points, and then it's going to fail.
Yeah, it's going to get and it's going to get blocked by a state judge or something.
And
like
I think it's one of those things that are just designed to like make people talk about it and just like just be like, you know, and if you have one opinion, you're this way, and if you have the other opinion, you're the good guy or the bad guy or whatever. It's just like, but like, you know, you try to take a nuanced opinion, and you're like a fascist or something. Like,
I've said it before here, and I still stand by it. You know, anyone who is a descendant of a slave deserves their divvied up 40 acres and divvied up mule. You know, give them a flank.
I mean,
mule.
I get that. I mean, I think, but then there's like other historical injustices that have been piled on top of that. Like, for instance, like, and I mean, I could go on forever, but like, so for instance, like, I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the podcast or not, but there was there's the Tulsa massacre. So like, black Americans, like, you know, there's like this narrative that like they like don't do anything for themselves. They haven't, but like what people tend to miss is that like in the, like certainly from the like the beginning of like the 20th century onward, there was like a significant black middle class that was developing in America, just like every other ethnic group, honestly, like except the Native Americans, which is another story.
No, we just like to dump more into their rivers.
Right. But just basically like almost every other ethnic group in the United States, there was like a significant middle class developing in African America. In African American.
Where's that?
Yeah. Well, in Tulsa.
Yeah, game point.
So in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was basically called Black Wall Street. It was like this significant area of black businesses, black-owned banks, black financial institutions, and it was literally razed to the ground by white people and like the Oklahoma fucking National Guard.
Yeah.
They literally bombed the city. Like from the air, like, and my point is that like, so okay, that's not slavery, but like, I mean, don't you think? Don't you think like, I don't know, there should be some sort of like justice for shit like that, and like none of those white people paid any sort of
and that's
like had no legal ramifications. They all got to live their entire lives and die in their beds. Meanwhile, they burnt black families like to a crisp, and that's fucking it's
atrocious.
It's atrocious.
But on that same line,
I mean, that's our country. This is within living memory, or it was until recently.
Well, I was gonna say it's not a hard segue. It's a medium segue because I could count on I couldn't count on both hands the number of people that are going to get away with very similar atrocities that affected everybody on a much grander scale, and I'm
like,
specifically
referring
COVID. I was about to say referring to COVID. Like these COVID atrocities are literal atrocities, and these people are not going to suffer any consequences.
No, I mean, it's just how power works in general, and specifically in this country. And that's not like, I mean, I'm just saying that, like, while I don't really necessarily agree with the whole reparations idea, because I think it's like, we're so far removed from, like, the crime of slavery that it's like, okay, so, like, everyone needs to pay, like, so what are you talking about? Like, so there are, like, at this point, like, there are, like, I think the majority, if maybe not the majority, but a significant portion of white America is actually descended from people who came after the institution of slavery was abolished.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, is it even like so you should just have to pay it just because you have the skin color, even though your ancestors weren't complicit in the crime at all?
Well,
like, I mean, just maybe they were just by virtue of being white, I guess the argument goes.
And the institutions of slavery that were the most egregious were not the government.
Right. It
was private citizens. It was private capitalists. And so unless the government is going to step in on behalf of specifically those people who committed those in those families, I would say who committed those crimes, it's going to be literally just a way to try and redistribute this to crowdsource this bribe, this buy-off, to be like, hey, you can't be mad at us anymore, and you've complicitly accepted every bad thing that the government has ever done to you as forgiven. Sign your name here, sign on the dotted line. And so I don't think that that's a really great way to do that. I also think personally reparation, that the argument is a slippery slope, because every race everywhere at some point in history has been a slave class.
That's true.
So
also, like, I think it only serves to further divide people.
Right. Well, exactly.
And it's like, because the natural result of that is obviously everyone who didn't receive money is going to go, why can't I get money?
Exactly.
And that's just natural.
Well, it will distract even more from this is not a left-right issue. This is an us-them issue, and it will instantly instantly muddy that water again, and it'll be people can get back on identity politics issues and back on just like policy issues, because they're not as focused on like this race issue. But here's the bottom line, in my opinion. It doesn't matter how much money you gave every individual person that was owed a reparation, they're not going to just instantly change their mind and go, oh yeah, no, it was fine now.
Yeah,
they're still going to talk about it. They're still going to discuss it. It's still going to be an issue that needs to be addressed and tackled through education and discussion. But
you can't really forgive crimes against humanity.
No, and it's just so it's so just like everything else, right? Like the COVID thing is in my opinion, it's not a one-to-one metaphor, but I'm using it as a way to just discuss like these crimes against humanity, and they do this all the time and get away with it, and then they just disappear. They just fade back into the shadows. They fade back into the bushes.
Yeah, like Fauci's doing.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say Fauci's retiring at the end of the year, and I don't know. My quick COVID story of the week was Dr. John Campbell talked about it actually, on his show. I linked an article correlating traffic accidents to COVID vaccinations, and I saw this in my Google feed, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna click on it. I know this is just a headline grabbing. This is just a dumb study that someone threw out there. Nope, this was peer reviewed and put in the American Journal of Medicine. This was a actual study that they actually published to literally push a narrative that I don't know a single person now who has faith in the vaccines. Like, rewind 2 years. Everyone I was the weird one, right? Like I was the one who was like, I'm not going to go for it. Yeah, I'd probably give up my job if they ever tried to make me do it. And I was fortunate enough to be in a position where that didn't happen, but I was the odd one out. Now, every single person I talk to goes, yeah, that was a scam.
Yeah.
No, totally.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, look at this. So I posted this in Discord if you guys want to see the image, and I'll post it with the episode as well. We have Mark McClellan, who was on the FDA, left for Johnson & Johnson to regulate. Scott Gottlieb on the FDA, now works for Pfizer. Stephen Hahn on FDA, now works for Moderna. James C. Smith was CEO of Reuters,
and
is now on the board of Pfizer.
Excellent.
Nice.
And then, of course, Fauci was
Oh, cool. So like
NIH.
completely,
I wonder, well,
completely non-biased.
has he said
Yeah.
where he's going yet? Because he said he's not retiring. But guaranteed he's going to be a consultant for.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah, so-
probably won't announce it yet.
No, we'll have to find out through back channels. Someone's going to see his name on a report somewhere and something. But no, absolutely. This was just another demonstration that apparently the American Journal of Medicine has also been corrupted by, I'm going to say, government sources, because there's like the COVID vaccine was clearly a government backed device.
It definitely was. And
Tool.
like the funny thing is you're not like seeing a lot of like the evidence coming out in America for that. Like that documentary evidence.
Yeah,
like we
no.
know it happened, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, a lot of evidence is coming out in Britain.
Yeah, but say Europe, something's happened on the ocean. There's trouble in the water, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe Britain finally got sick of just being the American puppet, because we're going to implode the EU using Britain, using England. Maybe they finally said, yeah, we don't want to lose our entire union to be with the West, so maybe they're pushing back a little bit. I don't know.
I don't know, but it's just interesting because there's like a lot of like stories that are breaking about like basically, you know, significant government cooperation between journalists and between like the academics and between
The EU announced that they're going to sanction Elon Musk over the reporters that he suspended from Twitter.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So that's what.
Okay,
you know.
who got sanctioned for canning the president of the United States a couple years ago?
So my point being, though, like clearly they're getting into this game and they're trying to, you know, get on it,
get it while it's hot.
But a sanction is not like a, you know, private institute. That's the government of.
Yeah.
So Elon. So I think like someone from like the European Commission on Human Rights or something was like tweeting at Elon Musk, was basically, and they were basically threatening him, saying that unless he like tweaked his policies on like hate speech or whatever, that they were going to outright ban Twitter in Europe.
Yep.
And his response to that was posting the Wikipedia link to VPN. Which was pretty funny.
Entertaining guy. Oh my god, it's just like when Trump was president. Didn't like most of the things he said, but fuck was he funny.
Or anything he did, but pretty funny.
Yeah.
I gotta say,
but I mean,
pretty funny.
He's also the man who could, you know, turn off all the Starlink satellites over Great Britain.
Yeah, he could do that. Yeah.
Well, so the European Union's getting into all sorts of things to discuss. So like just like the United States is trying to introduce legislation to ban TikTok, the EU is finally like, yeah, we probably shouldn't have this either. The EU is also trying to. The EU has more investigations into Pfizer and Moderna than the United States does. Now, obviously, DeSantis just announced in Florida that he's going to put together a state panel to try and investigate at least the things that were relative to Florida. But the EU has launched an investigation into Pfizer and Moderna over the COVID vaccines, and so like I said, the EU is there. At least on the public face of it, is starting to put some
there's been a political shift in
US.
Europe. A lot of conservative parties have come into power, and not in England though. There was the Liberal Party that because Boris Johnson got kicked out, but like across continental Europe.
Next one didn't stay long either.
No, that's true. And then like Rishi Sunak was like literally appointed. No one voted for him.
Yeah, no, he just got put in.
Yeah. Sus.
Yeah,
Sus as shit.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that they even can call that a democracy is crazy to me.
Yeah.
It would be like if like Joe Biden got in there and then like the cabinet secretaries were like, yeah, actually no.
I was about to say, that's about as
They're like,
democratic as
yeah.
Nigeria. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole, but absolutely there for 6 weeks, and then a new appointed individuals running the country. But no, I think the EU is, like I said, at least on the face of it, starting to try and push back, and they've realized, at least to some extent, that people who partner with foreign countries who partner with the U.S. lose every time.
Yeah, for sure.
And so they're starting to maybe starting to realize, or at the very least, like I said, on the face of it, starting to put back some pressure against the Western-backed narratives that were literally running the European Union two years ago.
The United States is duplicitous. Like we know this. They're fucking two-faced bastards. They are willing to sacrifice their most loyal allies.
Yeah.
Like for almost no gain.
Yeah,
like it just
literally.
like just out of spite. Like they're like good
out of capitalism.
Like they don't give a shit. Yeah. It's interesting that you brought up Nigeria. It actually made me think of this article I was reading. So Nigeria is probably one of the most powerful countries in Africa. It's huge. It's geographically big, and it's like culturally important in Africa. And if probably left unchecked, it would become like some sort of a world power, just by the trajectory it's headed on, you know.
Developing country.
Yeah, I think it might be in the BRICS, or if it's not, it should be. I mean, it's getting to that point.
They could be brinks.
Maybe like second world, like like
I mean, it has plenty of water access, so
yeah, and it has like a lot of oil. It has a lot of like mineral rights and things like that, and a huge and young population, like over 100 million people. Yeah. And anyways, so the United States looks at that and goes, that's a threat.
Yeah.
Like, right, even though we're ostensibly allied with Nigeria, right? Like we're there
for now.
We're not at war with Nigeria, like we're allied with them. However, I was reading, I think it was on antiwar.com, they were talking about like how the Nigerian president was basically like bitching and was saying like how a lot of these, they're finding weapons from the Ukraine, and they're winding up in ISIS and Boko Haram, which are like the Western-backed like splinter groups that we're using to kind of like chip away at Nigeria, like we do with all of
to
destabilize them, and they're finding Ukrainian arms. In the hands of Boko Haram and
those things that we were supposed to be, tracking. Well, we should have been tracking, but people said, "Hey, if you don't track these arms, they're going to end up who knows where." And our government said, "No, it's not. We're not worried about
that. That is a risk we are willing to take."
Yeah.
Well, it turns out who knows where is Nigeria, and the Nigerians are very happy about it. And honestly, I think this is. I mean, I have no firm proof for this, but I think this is indication. I don't think this is a coincidence that they ended up in the hands of fucking Boko Haram.
Yeah.
Like a lot of this stuff is being shuffled around by U.S. intelligence, and we're using it to kind of chip away at our current adversaries and any adversaries that have any plans of ascending. And
I just picture Zelensky sitting in his fort, tent, whatever he's in right now. Probably just a fucking beautiful hotel somewhere. And then just like another airplane lands on the main strip in the backyard, and he's like, "Oh, what's on that one?" And they're like, "More arms." And he just looks at his pile of arms that's 350 feet tall and goes, "We needed more." And they go, "Yep." and then the plane just gets on a truck, and the truck just drives off in the distance, probably down south.
I mean, more to that point, I mean, I was reading an article at the Ukrainian embassy in I believe in New York City. They held a gala, and it was sponsored by Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and BAE, I think it was. Large arms contractors were the fucking people that were fucking sponsoring this gala at the Ukrainian embassy. I wonder why.
Literally just a good way to launder arms to other areas that we're trying to destabilize. That it wouldn't surprise me in the least, which is what, again, I'm actually really surprised that Senator Rand Paul has not been taken out, because he was one of the big proponents of like, we should be tracking this stuff. Now, that being said, he hasn't pushed it again since then, to my knowledge. But
his neighbor trying to murder him probably put a damper on that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. He's still been touching hot topics. I mean, I'm really surprised. He's still the thing he's latched onto, and I think it's because he's realized gained a lot of popularity was the Anthony Fauci sort of conflict, whatever confrontations. But that being said, it's obvious that Anthony Fauci is never going to say anything actually incriminating.
Yeah.
He's not. He's a little smarter than Sam Bankman-Fried. He doesn't go on tours to talk about the bad shit that he's done, in the hopes that it will make him look better. That also happened this week. Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested.
Yeah, I saw one of the trials, or they were questioning him about all of his actions and what the company was designed for and such. And
well, and so there are a couple of things that are interesting about it. It was right before he was supposed to go testify in front of the Senate, which is either like maybe they planned it to grab him before that, because they said, if he's going to run before he goes to do that, or it was to make sure that he never actually got to the Senate. It could be either way. I mean, I think it was 2 weeks ago or so. I said, like, there's no way he didn't piss off a bunch of very wealthy people. And here's my evidence of that. The Caribbean government said, yeah, no, we're happy to. We'll go catch him and extradite him.
Yeah,
like
and
the United States, you want him? Okay, we'll grab him. Like there was clearly a collusion there, and I'm sure there were many calls in the government like, yeah, no, we got to get this kid because he pissed off too many people.
I mean, the Caribbean is basically the United States' backyard. They're sovereign states, kind of like, but they're these little tiny specks. They have not many people. Their armies are almost entirely funded and supplied by the United States.
Yeah, they might as well be U.S. territory.
Right.
So to me, though, the proof in the pudding is going to be, so typically the from what I understand, I'm not a legal expert, this is just, I'm reporting what I've heard, is that apparently it takes several years to go through all of the process to get an extradition treaty of an individual from the Caribbean. I guarantee you it doesn't take 2 years to get Sam Bankman Fried to the United States.
So he's in the Bahamas.
Sorry, I keep saying Caribbean. I mean Bahamas. Yeah, the Bahamian government, to get a Bahamian extradition treaty usually takes a couple of years because he hasn't been arrested by the United States. He's been arrested by the Bahamian government.
I think there's the reason he went to the Bahamas is because they tend to, not give up people as easily.
And he started it there because what he was doing would have been illegal if he did it in the United States.
Right, but illegal in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
These are money laundering. The entire reason for these states to exist is basically money laundering.
Right. And so what, to me, the proof in the pudding of coercion and going about, like I said, he pissed off people that weren't just wealthy people, probably pissed off some very wealthy people. And so if they get him extradited back to the United States quickly and in jail quickly, then that's going to be, somehow he jumped to the head of the line, which means someone made a call somewhere and said, do whatever you need to do to get him here faster. I want this kid in jail.
Yeah, and it's weird because, like, you bring up the whole crypto thing, and there's been like a rash of deaths, like in the crypto world, like recently. Like, so we've previously covered the death of a guy named Nikolai Mushigian. This is just before the whole SBF thing happened. He tweeted and he was like, the CIA and Mossad and the pedo elite are running some kind of sex trafficking entrapment blackmail ring out of Puerto Rico. And then he mysteriously winds up dead or whatever. And so we talked about that a little bit when we first started talking about SBF. But also there have been others. So there's this guy named Vyacheslav Taran. It says here a little bit, he goes, a Russian billionaire has become the third top cryptocurrency trader to die suddenly in recent weeks. Vyacheslav Taran, 53, the co-founder of trading and investing platform Libertex, died after his helicopter mysteriously crashed in a resort town near Monaco.
I hate when that happens.
The vehicle plummeted on November 25th, killing Mr. Taran, who lived in Monaco for a decade and was a veteran pilot.
He forgot to charge the battery on his helicopter.
Damn, I hate it when that
He was
happens.
piloting?
He was piloting.
Oh, okay.
Rookie mistake.
And so another person that kind of wound up, so on the 23rd of November, 2022, a man named Tian Colander, who is co-founder of Hong Kong-based digital asset company Amber Group, died unexpectedly in his sleep. He was 30 years old. And that was it. But it's just the fact that he's 30 years old and he just passed away. Also, there's this cluster of deaths surrounding this. We're going to see more. This is a deep state event. You're gonna just start seeing cleanup.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just gonna be oh, so and so had a heart attack. So and so
myocarditis.
Myocarditis.
Which
that's
is funny.
when they'll admit to it. Yeah.
I was about to say that because that's well. Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, well, he was. that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
So oh yeah, no, he was vaccinated, and that is a known, but exceedingly rare side effect of the vaccine.
R.I.P. John McAfee.
Honestly,
the first of many such murders.
If the vaccine is, I'm gonna go full conspiracy for a second, is nanomachines that could be activated at any time to give you a heart attack, it would be hilarious if they also admitted that it's a exceedingly rare side effect. Yeah. That's why they want it in everybody, because they want to be able to just turn you off anytime.
Listen, I'm not saying it is, but
wouldn't that be hilarious?
It sure makes some weird substancey fluid in your body that makes your heart stop.
Yeah, and not everybody. Only some people. Sometimes
They got the right batches or something.
I don't know. Yeah, well, that's what I don't know. I that's why the
Or they have a
vaccination.
blood reaction differently. I don't know.
I don't know. Like maybe it's like genetically targeted. Like certain people with certain genes. I don't know.
I wonder
Tied to
too.
your
'cause,
social security
I mean,
number.
there's no evidence. I mean, there's no evidence. There's no study so far to see like if it's a certain blood type or.
No, because they're denying that it is.
Yeah, exactly.
they don't
But,
wanna
like that would
acknowledge
be
this
super
problem.
useful information.
Yeah, they don't want to acknowledge it's a problem, and all of that information, I'm sure, goes into a database somewhere, but not going to be one that's publicly available. Well, so it's funny the study that was correlating car accidents and vaccination status. The database that study was based on was not made public as part of the study.
Of course, it wasn't.
No,
Yeah.
no, which is
yeah.
hilarious. So, imagine that it's not recreatable. We don't know where the data's from. So,
Give us a quick overview of that. I don't think we've touched it yet.
well, that's it. That really it was just a study that found that you were. I don't remember what the percentage was,
like
but according to the
72.
study, yeah, you were much more likely to die in a car accident if you were unvaccinated than you were if you were vaccinated against COVID. And the hilarious thing is that in the abstract of the article, so with the thing that most reporters are going to read. Because they're not going to read through all of the procedure. Likely, they're not going to read through all the procedure. They're going to read through the abstract and the conclusion and call it good.
Right.
Is that they basically say, well, it's probably likely due to the fact that compliant people who got the vaccine are pay attention to the rules of traffic more than the
Right.
uncompliant pestilence that
Basically, they're risk takers. People who didn't get the vaccine are risk takers.
But you want to know what's funny? And this was something that John Campbell brought up. He's like, but they did not include people who died immediately prior to the accident. So people who had, I don't know, maybe a heart attack right before the accident.
Right,
They didn't
right.
count those deaths in the study, which is interesting. So I think that there's definitely, but it was one of those things I wanted to bring it up. And I think was it you or said that put the chart that said like ice cream sales and
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
wasn't me, it was you.
It was me. Yeah.
correlating between the sale of ice cream and what was it?
And forest fires.
And forest fires.
Yeah.
They both go up during the summer. Really weird.
Ice cream sales go down, so do forest fires. Ice cream sales increase, so do forest fires. Like
They must be related
it's big,
intimately.
Big ice cream burning down the forests.
You posted a video too of someone explaining how they were getting those metrics, and they just conveniently cut off the point right before it would go down.
Yeah.
Just to show that, like, oh, this looks like it's an upward trend. This is where our projection is.
Yeah. I forget the man who said this, but there's a quote about lying, and he said there's lies, there's damned lies, and then there's statistics.
There's three types
Yeah.
of lies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. I want to say like Roosevelt, but maybe not.
Yeah, I'll have to post that into the visuals for the podcast too.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. But to my point, like I was like, yeah, I would expect to see that in a fucking some magazine somewhere. I would not expect that in an actual scientific journal, which is why the fact that it is really indicative of the fact that like they're really trying to.
Oh, sorry.
We're gonna get kicked off now. Copyright strike.
It's baseball season, everybody. This is an advertisement.
Thank you, Spaceballs, for sponsoring this episode. I don't know if Spaceballs is a company.
DraftKings. You ever want a dick inside your ass? DraftKings.
Yeah, we started talking about NordVPN.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would love to sponsor us. We could talk. What was that game? That mobile game that everyone talked about forever. It was on
like Age of
League of Titans or
Conquerors
something
So,
like
yeah,
that.
see, it's so generic. I can't even fucking remember. But I heard nothing but ads for it for a solid like 8 weeks. Yeah. Oh my god. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. But someone somewhere is gonna quote that fucking study, and they're gonna, as though it's an actual piece of evidence for anything. The hilarious part is Pfizer, both Pfizer and Moderna are still on the record as having said like when people are asking about like so the vaccine doesn't stop the spread. Our government, the CDC, your company representatives all claimed that it stops the spread of COVID-19. What is your take on the hypocrisy of having said that now that we have evidence that don't? Well, it was approved by the FDA under heavy individual review, and our evidence shows that it did stop the spread. Like literally, it's a non-statement,
right.
Because they're saying it was approved. So therefore, all of the bad things that happen don't matter because it was approved by the government, and they're right because financially they're not going to.
I mean, they're not liable now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because
under the emergency use authorization.
And my favorite part is the fact that the vaccine that they got emergency use authorized really didn't even get distributed in the United States. We got the other experimental one because the one that they actually got approved was
Comirnaty.
And no one had
Comirnaty.
Yeah, so just fucking literal experimental vaccine.
Sounds like a bro beer.
It does it's medical names, man. I still can't
throw over that Comirnaty, bro.
I feel like they just have like an alphabet in front of them and they just start rolling die, and whatever the number comes up as, they're like, all right, can I get a consonant roll?
Actually, my other talking point, Pfizer paid $2.9 million to the FDA in a bribe, and it was in a news article, 2021. I'll post it, May 6th. Of 2021, so there's a year after everything happened, and they were trying to get all these vaccines out. They paid them off to make it so that it was FDA approved.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, we already knew that.
Yeah,
but
like it's nice to see it in writing.
Yeah.
Well, and it's amazing how to the point the revolving door, but like they've shown like folks because they don't typically like just cut a check because that would be. Like the paper trail of
they
that.
They paid it through like the treasury or some shit.
Yeah, they'll pay it if they do give them actual money. It will come through some back channel. But they literally, this happens all the time. Like there'll just be a brand new car in someone's driveway, and there'll just be a note on it that says like, "Thank you, P."
Right.
And they're just like, "Oh, okay." And now I know if I do good things for P, whoever P is, wink, wink, I'll get stuff. And so like there's that. I mean, there's direct. Corruption, as we know. I mean, I think Anthony Fauci is easily the biggest example of direct corruption. He authorized gain of function research to happen in China under the ban that was still active from Obama, and
right.
his only defense is his first defense was I didn't know about it. His second defense was that's not gain of function research. Okay, well there are two mutually both of those things can't be happening. Either you didn't know about it, or you knew about it, but you didn't think it was gain of function research, which we can demonstrate that it was by at least everyone else's definition of gain of function, not yours, but everyone else's definition of gain of function.
Especially the definition at the time. They didn't even change it until afterwards.
The original definition of gain of function is literally what they were doing.
I mean, yeah. And then, you want to talk about overt corruption. The fucking man, because of the way that the NIAID is structured, there are, top scientists there are allowed to profit from patents.
Yeah, they get royalties.
So they get royalties. And Anthony Fauci was directly advocating for the adoption of the Moderna vaccine. While he never revealed that his name was on multiple patents that went into the creation of that vaccine. So he was getting royalties, huge amounts of royalties. Like he would stand to benefit significantly financially from the adoption of the Moderna vaccine, and he never. Apparently, that's not important enough to reveal at all.
No, nor is it important enough to prosecute. Apparently,
right.
So absolutely the direct corruption between our government authorities on health and the companies for whom they regulate is almost as transparent as you can get, especially nowadays. Which the public health agencies as a concept have obviously demonstrated themselves to not be capable of doing their job. Right. They no longer do their function. And what's hilarious to me is that, in a capitalist corporation, things that are not contributing to the company, they're the first ones to go. And the American public hasn't quite got there yet, but I don't talk to anybody now that goes, yeah, I really, the vaccines, I think in hindsight were great and I'm really glad we did it. No one says that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's a very...
Well, no one on paper, just people in boardrooms.
Well, the only people who say it are the mainstream media, specifically the progressive and liberal mainstream media, and the government, which are the two least important sources in this case when it comes to public opinion.
Yeah,
right.
Or good information.
just literally, I know of at least 2 people whose young children, relatively young, kids in their 20s, like got these vaccines, and literally the next week were having heart issues. Completely brand new, no pre-existing conditions whatsoever. Now, thankfully, they didn't end up leading to any cardiac arrests or anything, but like they all of a sudden now have diagnosed heart issues that they never had before. Yeah, they've gone away, but they never had them.
Right.
Within a week,
Yeah.
they had I don't. That's why like the actual lived experience is so much larger than the narrative now.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll spur enough of an outcry, but they'll just keep beating the pronoun bandwagon and the racial issue bandwagon, the identity politics bandwagon.
Oh yeah, because it's distraction.
Yep. Yeah, it's a massive distraction.
Speaking of which, speaking of distractions, I don't know how much time we're going to put more into this, but
into distractions.
Yeah, into a good distraction. Toyota has announced that they are not going to really try to do electric vehicles. They're just going to keep doing what they're doing because the CEO of the company, Mr. Toyota,
Toyota Han.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, the resources for these are expensive and questionable. Where you're getting them. So he's basically calling like all the lithium mines like slave labor, which is really cool to see. And he's like, okay, but if we go just for the EVs, everything's going to get more expensive because of that. But also people are going to be priced out of the market. We want to make cars for the market. We don't want to like make a market and then people have to buy the cars in the market.
Looking forward to his imminent helicopter crash.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah,
car crash.
Yeah.
He's like, people are buying regular cars still, and so we're going to continue making regular cars still until that starts to decline.
Right.
Let's make the consumers make the choice and what we produce as a company.
Right. It shouldn't be top-down directed.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll see if interested to see if he changes his mind as we inch closer to infinite power through fusion energy, which may or may not happen. So that was just quickly another announcement.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a cool one.
The first scientific study in history is, in one instance, a lot of people latching onto this as though we're going to have infinite electricity next week. No, we're like 10 years at best. Minimum, yeah. Because they don't talk. So basically, long story short, they produced a reaction in which more energy was produced than was put into it. Now, just for people to be aware, that was only in the specific thing that they shot the laser at. They do not include the power it took to charge the fucking laser in that equation. So we're still at least a decade off from actually being able to leverage this. But so it'll be interesting to see if as science does develop that way, if they start pushing the electric car thing, because they're going to, electricity is infinite. We can make as much as clean energy as we want. Hilarious thing is they're still going to charge a premium for infinite clean electric energy.
Yeah, I mean, so we did make a helium atom out of 2 hydrogens, or out of however many hydrogens had to smash together for that. It's supposed to be 2, but God only knows. But yeah, I mean, this is not going to change anything.
No, they're still going to charge for electricity, even though we're going to have...
I mean, CMP charges for delivery of the electricity. They don't actually have... They don't supply the electricity. I have like a different electricity supplier. CMP just provides it and charges like a percentage on that.
Right, because they basically own the infrastructure.
Yeah. So it's like you're still going to get charged for the delivery of your electricity, and the batteries are still going to cost just as much. Maybe it'll be more cost effective to fill them up, but they're still going to be
absolutely. They're going to siphon the cost from the resource to the delivery of said resource, and so we're going to be paying the same, if not more, for something that is infinite.
It should be clear. It should be cleaner though, much cleaner.
Theoretically.
So that's good. It reminds me, there was a similar discovery, or at least an announcement I believe in the early 90s, and there were 2 researchers. There was a man named Stanley Pons and a man named Marvin Fleischman, and they were at, I believe, Utah State University, and they had announced the discovery of cold fusion. Basically, they had supposedly made a reaction that created more energy and cold fusion meaning room temperature fusion, like, so not like in like plasma, like laboratories or whatever, like they could do it like on a kitchen table, right? And and they announced to the world that they had done this, and they were roundly like
summarily executed on the spot.
They weren't summarily executed, but they were basically railroaded out of like the fucking academia.
Same like the guy who made that clean engine, where it just cycles through the. When you burn something in an engine, you spit out so much hydrocarbon that can be reused. And this guy like made it way so it's like almost like a jet engine where it filters back in the fuel back through to make it more efficient. He was railroaded the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a very familiar story.
Probably going to make it more open and accessible. Like, so this announcement was essentially sanctioned by the government,
right? Because it came out of Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, like, which is why, like, for me, it's like this is very clearly like a directed release of information.
Start talking about it,
which makes me think we've had this for a while, probably.
Well, and they want everything powered by electricity, specifically so it can be digital, specifically because you can control it.
Yeah.
Remotely.
So it wasn't Utah State; it was the University of Utah. But it was a university in Utah. So so Martin Fleischman, Stanley Pons. So so these guys, like, they announced this, whatever, got railroaded out of academia. There was a book written by a man named Eugene Malov, and I can't remember the title right now. And it was basically the whole article was the whole book rather was talking about like how they actually probably did do what they claimed that they did. And and Eugene Malov worked at MIT. He was like, I believe he had a physics background as well. And he was like, this is why they probably actually did succeed. Maybe the effect wasn't as pronounced as they were claiming, but it does seem like they actually did find something. Eugene Malov mysteriously was murdered in his basement by a drifter or something.
Really?
Yeah.
They couldn't even make it look like it was a problem that like his machine exploded and it was a lab accident. They couldn't even get creative.
Oh, yeah. They paid some homo. Excuse me.
Yeah.
They paid a homo.
I meant to say a hobo, but damn.
Dropping those slurs.
Paid some hobo like $120. Hey, kill this guy.
No, it probably wasn't even that. It was probably someone in a perfectly pressed black tuxedo and a baseball bat, and they just said it was a hobo. Just a random passerby didn't like the cut of his jib and killed him in his basement.
Yeah.
So it says
I hate it when that happens.
This is from the Wikipedia article. It says Eugene Malov was killed on May 14th, 2004 in Norwich, Connecticut, while cleaning a recently vacated rental property owned by his parents. The nature of Malov's work led to some conspiracy theories regarding the homicide, but police suspected robbery as the motive. I mean, maybe. But I guess two men were arrested ultimately for the murder, and there are people in jail right now for it.
And how long had it been since they had a discussion with their state-sanctioned psychiatrist?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just out of curiosity.
But yeah, so it just made me think of that, like that whole story, and then it's like I've heard this before. Where have I heard this before? And then there was like that whole thing.
It's oddly familiar,
but it's not going to go that way because this is officially state sanctioned for sure.
They're just going to make it so that there can't be backyard reproducible.
Oh yeah, this is going to be like a General Dynamics thing.
Yeah, I remember one guy was like had like a nuclear reactor in his backyard. Like he made it himself, and they came after him like the full extent of the law. It's like, this is dangerous. It's like, I have it shrouded in lead right now. It's fine. What are you doing?
I mean, he had a nuclear reactor in his backyard.
Also, who the fuck are you? Government?
Yeah.
You guys have blown up more nuclear bombs than me.
Yeah.
Haven't you ever heard of the Second Amendment?
Hey, I can bear it. It is not. Well, that was their big argument, because that was a topic. I don't remember what it was a while ago, because they were like, should American citizens be allowed to own RPGs?
Well, it's funny, because I bet if he made it into a nuke, then it would be covered. I'm saying that hyperbolically, but the energy producing element of the nuke was off limits, but if you made it into a weapon,
hey, all I'm gonna say is there have been more government controlled incidents with nuclear reactors than ever in the private sector. So
So
statistics are fun.
In the background story of Michio Kaku, like so you guys know who that is. He's
Yeah.
like a really famous like science presenter.
Yep.
He's a professor of theoretical physics, I think at like CCNY, CUNY in New York City, and he supposedly when he was young, very young, he like not invented, but like created a like a large hadron collider in his fucking backyard.
yeah.
Like that's like his background story. Like he was able to do that. Can you? I mean, all I'm saying, like I'm calling bullshit. Like there's.
Well, I think there's a lot of
like,
mysticism around how intricate science really is.
Well, all I'm saying is like for a collider to. I mean, you have to have.
Yeah, it would have browned out the community, the neighborhood.
I think it did. I think the government like basically showed up at his house. This is like the way. It's weird that like he had like government contacts so young, and then it's just like
probably
there's like a
he was
lot
colliding particles. His
Well,
fucking
I mean,
backyard.
I mean that would happen, but it's just strange.
They
Like
show
the
up
whole
and
story's strange.
They just show up and there's just like a loop running through people's windows, like around the whole neighborhood.
But it's like, where did this kid get this material? He was like 11 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I mean. Like, I think there's a big sort of false understanding that like that science is something that can't be accomplished like in the home. Like, and I'm not saying everything can be,
right?
But I think there's a surprising amount of things that are really basic science that you can actually just sort of do with stuff that you can buy at the fucking Home Depot.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's true for sure.
But like even like you can use that like basically for the fundamentals of groundbreaking research. But I think that just like everything else, they want you to believe that in order to cut the edge, right,
it has to be institutionalized.
Yeah, you have to be in a state sanctioned laboratory or an academic laboratory or something like that. And it's like actually a lot of this stuff you could research at home, and they don't really like that.
Tony Stark built this in a cave, the box of scraps.
Yeah. Well, honestly, ever since the invention of the internet, right, like. You can do all the research you want to from home. You can order most any material you want from home.
Yeah.
And the only way that you'd ever get caught would be if the government happens to be watching
at that particular moment
or that particular supplier of things. So, I mean, I think that there's a lot of that going on.
So what Pine Pirate Radio is saying is build a nuclear reactor in your yard, folks.
Google it. Well, hey, all I'm going to say is the Anarchist Cookbook, like that. They started this whole thing, ever since back on paper, So that information's got to be written down somewhere.
Yeah, remember to collect as much rainwater as possible, despite your government.
Yeah. Oh God, that makes me. Yeah. So what made me think of it is I've been on a spree, and this is not the evidence I would use if I were trying to make this case, but it's just what made me think of it. A lot of the fucking viral, basically YouTube engineering videos where these people get like they just do what a lot of people consider crazy. Most of the time, it's like more invention stuff than like molecular biology. Mm-hmm. But like you can see the threads of like, oh yeah, if that person was a little bit more inclined, like they could make this, and that would actually be very not okay. But they obviously have the skills to do it, and maybe they, like that's what I'm thinking of, and I'm thinking specifically of like a lot of the like just sort of quirky engineering videos. One thing that like a guy made and this is a very popular video. It's called the channel is called I Did a Thing. The guy made a fucking it's what do they call it in construction? I can't remember the name, but it'll come back to me. I should know it immediately. It's essentially a hammer that is like instead of driving the hammer by hitting it with a nail, you fucking fire a bullet behind the nail and it fucking shoots it in.
Oh yeah.
I want to say impact gun, but it's not an impact gun. I can't. It's powder actuated is what they call it. Powder actuated the hammer. He fucking just made one in his garage, and he shot a nail through a steel table. Like, something he could carry and just smack someone with. Like,
yeah,
that's crazy.
So my point being, like, that's not a nuclear reactor in his basement, but like with a fucking bench grinder and some chunks of metal, you could make an armament. And so you could. I saw another one of a guy, a guy made fucking aerogel in his garage lab. Now it's not. Now that's a bit more of like a garage lab, but.
I was just like, thermite melting steel beams isn't far fetched. What you're saying?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you just need a bunch of metal shavings and magnesium. And I can't remember what the other ingredients for thermite, but like legit. There are some people that are creative enough and have the knowledge enough to do some very bizarre stuff just in their backyard. But the belief that most people have is that you need to be at an institution or you need to be essentially carried through to do this type
you need,
of
like
stuff.
a PhD and shit. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's why I think like field medicine is so fascinating, because like it's literally when you're out in a field hospital, you don't have a fucking lab, and they still find ways to not let people die. They'll even doing some like field research to figure out stuff on the fly. So like obviously you don't need a high-end lab to do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I just think that that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well,
if you invent a nuclear bomb in your garage, please write to Pine Pirate Radio. We don't have a mailbox, I don't think. So
PinePirateRadio@gmail.com.
Yeah, I was thinking more letter.
Oh, yeah. When we start getting requests for fan mail, maybe I'll open up a P.O. box or some shit.
Yeah, something somewhere. Please don't email us a bomb.
Yeah.
Or physical mail, either.
No Unabomber shit. Yeah. Thank you.
Or anthrax.
Yeah.
No, delicious.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Honestly.
I haven't gotten my anthrax vitamins in a while.
That's true. Honestly, we do have an anthrax specialist in the state, though. We could probably call up in the event of emergency.
Yeah.
We do. We have the anthrax specialist. That's funny.
Dr. Nass, what do we do?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's all I got for now.
Be sure to apply pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap it up for tonight. I think.
So.
Yeah, that might be it for the year.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I can't do Christmas Eve. We're probably not gonna do Christmas. So, happy Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, and
you guys went for Merry Christmas, and not Happy Holidays.
Are we doing this right now?
Yeah, right now.
Are we doing this, Cash?
I'm hijacking the end of the close out of the show. My name's Cash.
I'm Seth.
My name is Fort.
I'm not wishing you a Happy New Year.
That's next. Oh, yeah. I guess we should. No episodes coming out then, but yeah. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year. What fucking Happy Christmas, Merry New Year.
Yep.
Yeah. Merry fucking New Year.
Yeah, fuck all you Jews. We're not gonna mention that.
So the more I hear about it,
Happy Hanukkah,
the more I hear that Hanukkah is not a celebration that they really care about too much.
Ari Shafir says that in his special Jew, which is why I brought it up. He goes, that's not even in our like top 10.
Yeah,
because we have way more holidays than you guys. It's actually a pretty funny special.
Yeah, it is.
Anyways, all right. Well, we'll see you guys next year then.
Yeah, have a good one. Thanks for joining us this year.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.